The hardest part of scaling your mortgage business isn't the leads or the compliance, it's getting your team to actually do the things the way that you do it. I had a discovery call recently that stuck with me. It was a brilliant advisor with a small but growing team. And he asked me, Ash, how do I ensure my team is following the same journey for consistency? It wasn't the first time I'd heard it. In fact, this comes up more often than any marketing question. And why? Well, because the reality is, as your business grows as a broker, you can't be everywhere. You can't micromanage every call, every case, every experience. So how do you scale it without losing that personal touch? Well, if you don't get this right, here is what can happen. The clients get inconsistent service, your brand will become diluted, your team morale is going to suffer from confusion, and worst of all, you lose trust not only from the clients, but within your own business too. It's definitely not just a workflow problem, it's a business identity problem. So let me walk you through how I've helped mortgage brokers at every single stage, from solo brokers thinking of hiring their first assistant, to businesses with 10 plus advisors bring clarity and consistency into the heart of their client journey. First thing is getting it out of your head and onto paper. The number one mistake I see is everything living in your head. If you're the only one who knows what happens at each stage of your client journey, from the inquiry to the application to post-completion, you can't expect others to follow. Make sure you document it. It doesn't need to be perfect. Bullet points on a Google Doc is absolutely better than a vague idea floating around in your mind. When I first started, I had everything figured out my own way, but trying to scale that knowledge without writing it down is pure chaos. The moment I started writing things out and building frameworks, the fog lifted and suddenly what was once instinct became replicable. The second thing is define the 3 core roles in your business. Whether you have a team or not, your business is already made up of 3 roles. That is sales, which is advice, customer service, which is front end, and paraplanning, which is back office. Now, in the early days, you wear all 3 of these hats, but as you grow, these need to be separate and clearly defined. Otherwise, you're going to hand off tasks with unclear expectations and then get frustrated when things fall through the cracks. I always tell brokers that you need to define these first, even if you're a team of 1. The clarity it gives you is a game changer. Once these roles are outlined, you can then identify where you need help and hire accordingly. Don't underestimate the power of boundaries in these role definitions. The third thing you have is understanding support staff versus advisors. Now, here's where the nuance really starts. Support staff and advisors operate completely differently. Support staff like administrators and paraplanners, or even your marketing assistants, they're generally on a salary or hourly pay. Their role is to support the operations of the business, and they'll usually take direction well if they have a clear and defined task list. So with them, the change isn't getting buy-in, it's about being crystal clear. If they have a checklist to follow, most will. The issues start when you're unclear or inconsistent in how you communicate. The golden rule with your support staff is if you want them to execute like you do, you need to be consistent first. With advisors, however, things get a whole lot trickier, especially if they are self-employed. So let's go to point 4, which is employed versus self-employed advisors. They are different mindsets and different motivations. If your advisor is employed, you are in control. You can and should set the tone. You're providing stability, structure, and a salary, and in return, they follow your method. But even here, clarity matters. Too often, leaders assume their advisors will just get it, and spoiler alert, they won't. Make it easy for them. Define your process, train them in it, monitor it, and keep it alive. So now let's talk about the self-employed. So the self-employed advisors are a different breed entirely. They're naturally more independent, often entrepreneurial, and they usually are motivated by the freedom that self-employment offers. Now, you can't manage them in the same way. If you try to impose rigid structures or top-down mandates, you're going to likely lose them. They'll find another network or a principal who offers them the flexibility they want. So what do? You need to lead by example. You build a process that works, you show them the results you are getting by following that process, and you let consistency do the talking. If you are making more money, writing more business, and spending less time on admin because your process is on point, they will notice. At first, they may dismiss it, but after a while, they will start asking questions like, how are you doing that? And can I follow your method? And that's your moment. You didn't force change, you inspired it. The 5th thing you have is that culture eats process for breakfast. You can have the best system in the world, but if the culture in your business doesn't reward consistency, it's never going to matter. Culture is built by behavior. If your advisors see you skipping steps, winging appointments, or not using your CRM properly, they will do the same. If they see you leading with clarity, empathy, and accountability, guess what? They're going to follow suit too. You set the tone. Your consistency becomes the culture of your business. The 6th thing we have is let people own their lane. Once you have their roles defined, allow them to own it. Micromanagement is often just a sign that you haven't really clearly communicated the standard. Give your team room to succeed, have regular check-ins, of course, review their workflow, offer feedback, but let them breathe. Ownership creates pride, pride creates consistency. And if someone isn't following the process, ask why. Usually there's a blockage, unclear expectations, missing training, or just misaligned in the vision. You need to fix that blockage, not the person. The 7th thing you have is train the team you want, not the team you have. This is a big one. As you grow, don't train the team reactively. Train them proactively into exactly what the business is becoming. This means train for consistency, train for communication, train for culture, train for adaptability. Your future business depends on how well your current team understands what the journey ahead looks like. From here, you can then take action. But here's the main step that makes it all click. You need to document your process, define your roles, live your culture, and share your results. Your team are going to follow what you model, not what you say. I have learned firsthand that business growth is rarely about hustle. It's about replication. Can your results be repeated by others in your team without your constant input? That's the difference between having a job and building a business. Consistency isn't about smooth operations. It's about freedom.